We're going to round up two NFL draft gurus, if you will, and their latest mock drafts following the first big wave of NFL free agency. Welcome on in to the Broncos Breakdown by Chat Sports. Matthew Peterson here, reacting to Mel Kiper and Daniel Jeremiah's latest mock draft. So let's start with Kiper, the godfather in a lot of ways of the mock draft, and take the L3 off, and then we will jump over to Jeremiah's mock draft. But let's go with Kiper, starting with pick number 1, where he goes with Cam Ward for the Tennessee Titans. We can fast forward through some of these picks here. We've got Abdul Carter, Shedeur Sanders going next. Then you've got Travis Hunter, so a pair of CU players going in the top 4. And then we are looking for our friend Ashton Jeanty. He falls to the Raiders at number 6. If you're like, all right, missed out on Jeanty, how about Tyler Warren? Psych! He goes to the Jets at 7. So not an option there for the top running back and tight end in this class. How about Jackson Dart going round 1? And how about Jackson Dart going top 10 to the Saints? None of these other players have a huge, I wouldn't say link to the Broncos, with the exception of Omarion Hampton going to the Cowboys at 12. So we move along a little bit, inch our way closer to number 20, and we are almost there. Nope, don't go that far. As we've got Will Campbell and Colston Loveland going next. So no Warren, no Loveland, no Jeanty. What does Denver do at pick number 20? Drum roll, please. They are going to go with Tetairoa McMillan, wide receiver out of Arizona. So what I want to do first is get you guys kind of familiar with McMillan and then my kind of overarching thoughts on the whole thing. But this is a prospect we have not spent a ton of time talking about. So he's 6'4", 219 pounds. Fun fact for you, he was the highest ranked recruit in Arizona high school history, originally committed to Oregon, then opted to stay home. He's got plenty of accolades, but for an actual real breakdown of his profile as a prospect, I always like a good compliment sandwich. You can use this, by the way. It's a great way to, uplift a coworker or a friend. So, pro, con, pro. Pro, he's your traditional NFL size, right? 6'4", he ran about a 4.5 40-yard dash. So, not blazing speed, but not the slowest poke in the world. Con, he doesn't have that elite separation speed when he gets vertical. Right? If you're looking for him to really get some separation between himself and the DB on a pure go route, that's not in his repertoire. And that's okay. You don't have to have that. Courtland Sutton doesn't have that really, and he's still a very strong receiver for the Broncos. There are plenty of receivers who didn't have blazing 40-yard dashes and made up for it in a magnitude of other ways. Now, McMillan's stats are very impressive, especially the past 2 years. A lot of scouts say go off of 2023 more than 2024 because there is a slight step back. Receptions down, yards down, touchdowns down, drops up. One thing that Arizona people point to was he wasn't really 100% in 2024, and he was battling through an injury that just kind of nagged at him. So a lot of people are looking at 2023 McMillan for a better representation of his true self. Now that we know the player, T-Mac, let's talk about whether or not I like this pick by Kiper. It's not my preferred choice for 2 reasons. 1, he's not my favorite receiver in this draft class, and Kiper passed on a receiver I prefer more, who we'll talk about later in the video, for McMillan. 2, it's not a very good wide receiver draft class. Does Denver need a receiver? Depending on who you ask, you'll get varying responses. I'd say, in the eyes of Sean and George Payton, not really. Why do I think that? They didn't make many moves for a receiver in free agency. If it was that pressing, they probably would have addressed it then. And this receiver class is one of the weaker ones that I really doubt their thought process was, you know what, let's bank on an underwhelming receiver class to fix any receiver problems we think we might have. So the fact that I don't think Denver thinks they need a receiver, and I don't think McMillan is the best receiver in this class, I'm having a tough time selling to you guys. I think this is a home run pick by the Broncos. In fact, I don't think any receiver in this draft class would have gone even first round last year. Like, you had Marvin Harrison, Rome Odunze, Brian Thomas, Malik Neighbors. None of these guys jump out to me as first round receivers. None of these guys jump out to me as that's someone that you can really build your passing game around for the next 8 to 10 years. Would you have taken a receiver in round one? Not to say that's a high bar, but those are the expectations. So, not my preferred choice. That's my 2 cents on a McMillan selection. Now we're going to look at Jeremiah's selections for the Broncos next. But first, sound off for me. Do you think Denver should take a wide receiver at pick number 20? I'm going with no. I don't like this receiver class very much. I've got too many holes to poke in for them to use the 20th overall pick on. So for me, I'm passing, but feel free to disagree with me in the comment section below. Now let's look at Daniel Jeremiah's mock draft, where he has a very similar start. In fact, he has identical start. It's Cam Ward, Abdul Carter, Shedeur Sanders, then Travis Hunter. Fast forward a little bit, he still has Genty going to the Raiders like Kiper, but he does not have Warren going to the Jets. So could Warren fall to the Broncos? We move along, and we get a lot of different picks here now. Matthew Golden going to the Cowboys at number 12 instead of Omarion Hampton. And there's Tyler Warren falling to the Colts at 14. I think if Denver's going to get Warren, it's going to have to be a trade up with the Dolphins. I don't see Warren getting past Indianapolis. So we make our way towards the Broncos at 20. Maybe plan B is Colston Loveland, and he goes to Seattle 2 picks before. And with the 20th overall pick, the Denver Broncos select Omarion Hampton, running back out of North Carolina. And I know a certain viewer right now is throwing his phone across the screen because he does not like this selection. But let's do the same thing we did for McMillan for Hampton. Let's just get to know him first. At the combine, came in 6 foot, 221, ran a sub 4.5 40-yard dash. For someone whose perception is he's a bowling ball, he's a cannonball, he's a bruising back, he moved pretty quickly. Like, that was Audric Estime, right? He was a goal line back. He was someone who ran with physicality, and that showed with his very slow 40-yard dash. Now, Hampton's got great physicality. He requires a bunch of defenders to take him down, and he's got good burst and good speed to rattle off some longer runs. Back-to-back 1,000-plus, 1,500-plus yard seasons at North Carolina. There were concerns about when Drake May leaves, how will he fare since teams don't have to worry about the quarterback as much? And there was no regression from Hampton, right? He added on more yards and same 15 touchdowns. Listen, I think Hampton is what George Paton was trying to get out of Javonte Williams. And knowing that, if Paton has a big say, and I'm not in, obviously, Denver's war room, and I don't have a great feel as the percentage split between Sean and George, but I'm thinking it's not 50-50. I'm thinking it's probably 70-30 Sean over George. But if George Paton is looking for his next Javonte Williams because he feels like he didn't get it wrong with Javonte, the knee injury screwed him over. Well, here's another running back from North Carolina that plays a similar bruising style, but might be even faster than Williams. So this could be someone that George really zeroes in on. As for those of you that are saying, I don't want this pick because I've seen too many mock drafts where he goes in round 2. Thus, this is now a reach. I don't mind a reach pick at number 20. And this goes against a lot of the things that I believe when it comes to the draft. I love best player available. But let's say the best player available this year when you're on the clock at 20 is James Pierce from Tennessee. Are you going to take an edge rusher? You've got 4 good ones. Cooper, Benito. You took one last year, Jonah Ellis. DeAndre Tillman, who was playing in spring football, had like 5 sacks for you last season. Do you need another edge rusher? Because if you want best player available, there's a good chance the best player at 20 will be an edge rusher based on how loaded that draft class, that position group is. So I don't mind reaching on Hampton if you feel, and by you I mean George and Sean Payton, feel like he's going to be a great running back for you. Because there are so many running backs who teams took in round 2 that were super successful. Would it have been a reach if the Colts or Browns took Taylor or Chubb in round 1 or another team did? At the time, it would have said it. Looking back, it would have been a great pick. Imagine if a team took Derrick Henry in round 1. Would that have been called a reach then? Possibly. Would it be a reach now? Absolutely not. And last year, Sean Payton showed us he doesn't give a shit what you think. I thought Bo Nix was a round 2 guy. Sean Payton liked him. So what did he do? He didn't mess around. He didn't play tummy sticks. He went after his guy. If Hampton's his running back, right, and he feels like his defense is in a great spot after signing Hufanga and Greenlaw, and tight end's good with Evan Ingram, the last squeaky wheel is running back. He doesn't want to, play the game of, yeah, we could get Hampton here, but we could also possibly get him in round 2, but we don't pick until the 50s in round 2. What if he goes before us? And what if we miss out on what we feel is like the last missing piece? Because we didn't want to be looked at as reaching for a player. So we took an edge rusher that we don't really need, and now we get a worse running back than we thought, and that running back's going to have a much greater influence on 2025 and beyond than this backup edge rusher because we went best player available when we already had 2 starting edge rushers. That's, the catch here. So which pick do you think was better, McMillan or Hampton? I'd go with Omarion Hampton. I like this pick more than T-Mac. But let me know what you think in the comment section below. Also, we're going to run through the rest of Jeremiah and Kiper's mock draft in case you're wondering, all right, but who went from 21 to 32? So we can pick up with Jeremiah or Kiper. It doesn't matter to me, Moose. And let's start with Kiper at 21. You're right there. Go back to where you were. There it is. Yep. So Kiper at 21 goes with Derek Harmon out of Pittsburgh. Remember earlier I said that Matt McMillan was not my number 1 receiver? It's Matthew Golden. He's my favorite receiver in this draft class. Then he's got Emeka Ibuka going to the Packers, Jahdae Barron going to the Vikings. Meanwhile, Jeremiah over this same 4-pick slot, he has Jackson Dart going to the Steelers. Then McMillan going to the Chargers. Wow, stop me if you've heard this before. The Chargers go after a tall receiver who struggles with vertical speed. Mike Williams, Quentin Williams, it just keeps going on and on. Maxwell Harrison, and then Nick Emanwari. Emanwari would be a guy to watch for Denver at 20. Kiper, back to him, 25 to 28. I'm a little surprised to see how far Malachi Starks fell. Also, I don't know if they need some help, I guess, next to Kyle Hamilton, but they might go a different direction. Meanwhile, Jeremiah over this span, if the Broncos don't go receiver or running back, defensive tackle would be a very good spot. I would like Derek Harmon or Walter Nolan a lot, who ended up going to the Eagles to round out the first round in Kiper's mock. Meanwhile, in Jeremiah's last 4 selections for round 1, he has Shamir Stewart, who tested through the roof at Indianapolis, ending the first round of the draft. So if they're not going to go with the traditional or I wouldn't say traditional, but highly believed running back or tight end pick at number 20, I'd go interior defensive line. Kenneth Grant, Walter Nolan, Derek Harmon, just a few names for you guys to munch on. So before we sign off, since we talked about running backs a little bit today, name a current NFL running back. For the offseason, I thought since things can get a little bit dry, it'd be a fun way to end each video by just putting up a topic and then counting down from 3 and seeing if you and I say the same name. So with that in mind, I'm trying to think of one myself because I did not come prepared. Okay, I got one. Ready? Let's see if we say the same name. 3, 2, 1. Kenneth Walker, Seattle Seahawks running back. All right, that's going to do it for us on our video today. Really appreciate everyone for tuning in. Hit the like button on your way out, and I'll see everyone tomorrow.